Well, first of all, a little bit of apologies for no vlog last week. I've been away on a festival on the River Yare, so I didn't really have time to do anything or get it uploaded, and I wanted to talk to you properly about the last couple of weeks. Those of you who follow the blog will know that I've been going on the River Trent. I've absolutely loved going on the Trent. What a fantastic river, loads of fish. Some areas not as good as others, but generally speaking it was really good. So I was really up for the national, and you may have seen my Barnsley Blacks team won the national. Absolutely fantastic. I couldn't have asked to have a better experience with those lads. A great bunch of lads. I was privileged to be fishing. All those sort of superlatives, really, you know, just a really great experience. Going into the match, I must admit, really fancy Starlets to do well. I thought they had a great team. I think I said before, you can never rule out Dorking. There's lots of other good teams. Shakespeare proved how brilliant the team they are. And fortunately for us, we managed to beat them by a point. And I've been on the losing end of that, where I've lost by a point, and it's not a great feeling. So I think all those lads were a credit, because they were really congratulated us, and that was fantastic. You know, I feel sorry for them, but fortunately for us, a brilliant result. I don't often get nervous when they're reading the results out, but I was nervous. I must admit, you know, we knew that the winning team went to the World Club Championships next year in Slovakia, which after going to Slovenia this year is something that I absolutely desperately would have loved to have gone back and done. So to win that, to win the national, and to hear that we'd won by a point was just fantastic. My own match was quite interesting. I drew at South Clifton, an area that I have been on before. Generally speaking, at South Clifton, £10 to £14 wins the match on that area. Just looking through the results for the last sort of 2 or 3 months. So I thought, 5 kilos for really good points. That was sort of what I had in my head. I drew permanent peg 30, which is ever so shallow. We may have been 29. We weren't really too sure, but it looked. The numbers were a bit worn, but it looked about permanent peg 30. But ever so shallow on the float. I had about 3 foot at the start of the tide. It was running off all day, and I should say by the end of the match I had no more than about 18 inches, say 15 metres out. It was ever so shallow, and as a result, a downstream wind, really strong downstream wind, really made float tactics almost impossible where I was, and the fish weren't there. When I went out on the waggler, I had a perch like that first chuck, and I've not had another bite on a float all day, which is astonishing there, because it really is a float dominated stretch. But for those of you who, like I say before, have been following the blog, I fished that feeder match that I've been telling you a little bit about, whereby I fish a feeder, casting in relatively regularly, fishing with small hook baits, small hooks, and feeding casters, a little bit of hemp, a little bit of chopped worm through the feeder, and just chucking in all the time and coming back with a fish. I've had something in the region of 15 roach, half a dozen dace, a few perch, and a flounder, amazingly, I suppose on the tidal bits to be expected every now and again, for 1 kilo 980, which, if you'd have told me I was going to catch that before the start of the match, I'd have been devastated, because I thought it was going to be terribly hard, but it wasn't. In those pegs where I was, it was very hard for anyone to break a kilo. I think Jeff Balance, 4 pegs up, has had a bream, a skimmer, and a couple of flatfish to weigh 2 kilos, so I was really good, but that's a very bold approach. One bite, that bream comes off, or anything like that. For me in a team match, that wasn't going to be what I was going to do, and as a result, lots of other people around me never caught that bonus fish and weighed sort of 500-600 grams. So I was really pleased with myself. I was really happy with my performance, and you know, I think I ended 9th in my 42 pegs, which from that area there in that section, top ends of the section were always a lot better. I was absolutely over the moon. When I got back to the results, because it's one of the furthest places, all the lads were over the moon as well. They definitely thought I was going to struggle from there, so I was really chuffed. We had some great performances. Ian Bowman won his section on the feeder. Simon Fields was third in his section on the feeder. So what was looking like it might be a lot of float fishing for the national, I think we had 5 guys catch on a feeder and 5 guys catch on a float, showing how versatile you needed to be. And I was absolutely over the moon. So brilliant result for us. And that meant that after winning the Winter League by a point and the national by a point, we were on a bit of a run. Could have quite easily been a point the other way, but when luck's with you, which it seems to be for Barnsley at the moment, you know, we've fishing well, give ourselves a chance, and we've won those 2 matches, which then meant this weekend went to the commercial national. Well, it's the Stillwater National, I'm sorry it's called, and that was held at Cudmore and Heronbrook. So we were looking for Angling Trust Fund 3 big team competitions. That would have been the treble. So if we could win that this weekend, that was what we were setting out to do. Well, we've had a fantastic performance. One of the best performances I've seen by a Barnsley team, but by a lot of teams. You know, I know that sounds a bit weirder coming from me, but you know, I'm quite pragmatic with what I see. If somebody's done brilliant, I'm happy to say they've done brilliant. And for Barnsley this weekend, they really did do fantastically well. In 19 peg sections, we had 4 winners, a second, a third. I was 4th. We had 2 8ths and a 12th, or a 10th, around about that. That for me is a fantastic return. If your lowest result is about halfway and everybody else is right at the top there, then that's great. I mean, I'm gonna name some of the top performers. They definitely deserve it. Frankie Giannicelli did fantastically well. Won his section on Canal at Heronbrook. Nick Speed won the entire match on Island, fishing meat through the water. What a fantastic performance that was. James was in a terrible bit of his section. James Dent, really bad, and he caught 200 skimmers to come 8th. Which I know isn't always something worth talking about, but I tell you now, there were no carp at his end of the lake. That was a definite bottom 5, and he's fished a great match there. Andy Gellart's gone back on Arena, the home of his big win for Fishermania, and won the lake again, showing his tactics were definitely right. So I think that, you know, we've had a good draw, no doubt about it. You don't get a fantastic score like that off a bad draw, you really don't, but we've had a good draw and we've definitely scored really, really well. I think that was, we had, I'm just trying to think who our other section winner was now, it escapes me at the moment. Frankie, Nick and Andy Gelder and Matt Godfrey. Matt Godfrey, how can I leave out Ginners? He did a fantastic job. He drew a good peg, end peg on the Panama sort of canal type lake, and wow, he did a great job. 40 kilos, obliterated his section. So you can only win your section off a good draw, and well done to Matt. So really, really good, fantastic performance, and we won the match. Trentman did well to come second again. The event's been running 2 years and we've managed to win it both years. Really, really pleased with everything at the moment, and I think there's a great bond between all the lads, and it's really, really nice to be enjoying team fishing at the moment. So we'll have to see what happens with that. As for myself, I went to the Riviera Festival this week as well. My match on the Commercial National was quite interesting. After 3 hours I had 2 F1s and was looking dead and buried. I've been trying to feed casters to catch some silverfish because I thought I needed to put something in the net, and feeding some casters, I've actually sparked a few carp into feeding, and I've actually caught carp where I've been feeding the casters. So it just goes to prove that sometimes you've got to do something a little bit different to get a result, and I was 4th in my 19 pegs, which I'm certainly very happy with, you know, that result. Warren Martin was next to me, did a fantastic job winning the section. Warren's a great angler, and he had a lot of fish early on, sort of nicking an odd fish, mugging and nicking an odd fish across, and I just couldn't get a bite at all. And sometimes it happens like that on commercials, and then I played all day catching him up, and he managed to finish 5 kilos ahead of me, so fair play to Warren. But I should think he was probably 15 to 18 kilos ahead of me at one point, so nice to catch him up. Just mentioning there the Riviera Festival as well. I've been there this week. I finished 4th in the festival. I've had a section win, 2 seconds, The Riviera really is my sort of favourite venue in the UK. I grew up there. A great place. I had a day float fishing on the pole for £18.12 of roach and a section win. Great day's fishing. Next day I drew a very deep peg, not really many roach there. I fished a feeder match, what I consider to be quite a neat feeder match, casting quite a long way. Caught a few skimmers in the last half of the match and weighed 16.12 for a second in the section. It was an £18 further up. Certainly I was really happy with that, because that was, you know, it was only a couple of pound off it the day before. Really looked like a hard area, so I was really happy with that result. And then on the final day I've caught a few fish on a pole feeder, but then I've caught really well on a float for a couple of hours before the water level rose too much for the fish and they totally switched off, and I weighed 16.6 of roach. 3 fantastic days fishing. You know, lots of casters and hemp, real positive fishing, ground bait. Really enjoy that sort of fishing. I'll certainly be going back next year for that one. And 4th overall in the festival, so really good run at the moment, really can't complain. Will Freeman won that festival. That's worth a note as well. Will won the festival. He's had £20 twice and £30 final day, and that won the match every day. Will Freeman is on the sort of fringes of the England feeder team. He really is a fantastic angler, so well done to him for winning the festival. You know, that's it. I mean, that to me sort of concludes the last 2 or 3 weeks, or the last couple of weeks of my fishing. Really hectic. Some big competitions, some great results. I really can't complain. Next couple of weeks coming up, again I'm very busy. Next weekend I've got Evesham Festival. We all know how big an occasion that is, so it'd be nice to get some sort of result there. And then the weekend after is the £100,000 prize pot of the Match This final. So I'm going to put a couple of days in for that if I can fit them in, because I would love to certainly frame. I know it's going to be one off, you know, more likely a good peg, but if you can draw an average peg and possibly sneak in the money, backup money as well, that'll be a nice result. So everything going well at the moment. Hope you've enjoyed this week's vlog. As you can see, the tackle room is absolute chaos. Need to get it sorted today, so I'm having a day off. And I'll catch up with you with another vlog next week. Thanks very much. Bye.